I feel like I've talked about Madison Cawthorn recently enough on the second channel here that I don't really need to introduce him again, really. But this is pretty fascinating. It's pretty illuminating. Representative Madison Cawthorn is waging a spiritual battle against evil and vile Washington, D.C. This came out about last week. Several Republican members of Congress, North Carolina state legislators, various candidates for office, and radical religious right activists gathered at Temple Baptist Church in Mount Airy, North Carolina last weekend for Faith and Freedom Coalition's Salt and Light Conference. I don't know what that's supposed to be. Among the politicians in attendance was Representative Madison Cawthorn, who used his time in front of his home state crowd to declare that he is waging a spiritual battle in the supposedly evil and vile Washington, D.C., against people like Democratic House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and her cold, evil eyes. Now, as with most right-wing watch articles, this is basically just telling us what is in the video. So we're going to watch the video in a second. But apparently he references a bill called the Women's Health Protection Act, legislation that would protect women's rights to an abortion and prevent states from prohibiting the procedure prior to fetal viability. House Democrats passed the legislation last Friday in response to Texas's extreme abortion ban, which that's not even necessarily accurate. The Texas ban, for those who aren't totally up and up on it, Texas can't ban abortions. It can't. Abortions are a constitutionally protected act. It is. That's just how it is. Nobody has overturned Roe versus Wade, so by the definition of how it has been interpreted by the Supreme Court and how it still stands, it is a constitutionally protected act. What the Texas thing is it allows and even incentivizes people, not lawmakers, not the government, but private citizens, to file lawsuits against anyone who performs an abortion or who helps in an abortion happening, even so far as somebody who drives a woman to a clinic. Like, that's what it does. And it's very, very shady. It's very, very... it's some snake shit. It's snake shit, okay? But anyway, I just wanted to mention that because I was looking up a bit more on that recently because, I just hadn't gotten a chance to. So that was kind of a topic of study this morning. Anyway, let's watch this video. Yeah. Right, we watch.
I believe that the power of prayer will save this country in the coming decades. Because I'll tell you, when I'm in Washington, D.C., I know a lot of you consider the place to be evil and vile, and I am here to tell you with firsthand knowledge, it is evil and vile.
I mean, look, man, it's even most lefties are gonna agree with you there. We have massive institutional problems with how our government operates, the ability for politicians to be purchased whole cloth by special interest groups. Sure, I would agree with you there. However, I don't necessarily think prayer is a very viable method of effecting change in our government system. Kind of feels like you're just, jacking off the audience a little bit there. You guys have been praying? Well, you're doing your part, guys. Good job. Hey.
But I will tell you, when I'm there, I don't feel an overwhelming sense of darkness and as if the devil has complete dominion of that area, because I feel a spiritual battle going on Capitol Hill. And patriots like all of you in this room on your knees praying that we have the cover within this spiritual fight is what it will take to save this country.
Okay, I am always really curious about this sort of thing. I was raised Christian. I have studied the Bible. I'm very well versed in the culture. One thing that I've always taken away from the basis of a Christian faith is that you're not supposed to judge. Judging people, especially like judging people's capacity for faith, is kind of a no-no. But also, that you have to beware false prophets. You have to beware people saying that, hey, this is the way. This is the way to combat evil. Like there's very specific lessons taught about not falling in for charismatic leadership, because like isn't the Antichrist supposed to be an infiltrator? Like I've always been curious about that, because basic core tenets of Christianity is to follow the teachings of Jesus, and that's it. It's not follow the teachings of this dirty carpenter who lived 2,000 years ago, who just had some pretty decent ideas, to all of a sudden like we have to engage in spiritual warfare. Where in the fuck was that ever? Where was that taught? It's so weird. It's so weird.
Because, my friends, I'll tell you, when we're in Washington, when I have to look Nancy Pelosi in her cold, evil eyes every single day, and we all laugh because it's funny, but I'll tell you, she literally just passed a bill yesterday trying to say that we can abort babies on demand all the way up until right before the day of birth.
That's not actually what the bill says at all, but that is very specifically for non-viable fetuses. Like, they're not going to survive. They're not going to survive, But again, right? Like, I don't know. So many people have made fucking videos about this. I am, by and large, have never been, nor do I have any interest in being an atheist YouTuber. But it bears worth repeating in this instance because of what we're talking about. The Bible has instructions for abortions. Like, they forget that. The Bible even has like teachings on basically when life itself becomes like a person, when a soul is inside the fetus. Like there are specific things in the Bible that address exactly these things, but it doesn't say what people like this guy wanted to say, so they just fucking ignore it, which is weird. Super weird.
When we hear this, when we hear the fact that if a baby comes through a botched abortion, is alive, sitting there on the table, they then still have the right to murder that child. We realize that when I quip and say I look her in her cold, evil eyes, it's not a joke. These people hate us. And I am tired of the Republican Party that believes that if we bend the knee to the Democrats and the radical leftists and the socialists enough times, then eventually they'll start liking us. Eventually they'll have us on MSNBC and they'll give us a fair. No.
It's really not about that, and I don't know why you would care that much anyway. The most popular news channel out there is Fox News. So, yeah. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, I'm looking at the stuff of the Bible right now, actually, while we're talking about it. So one of the things that's more interesting about it is that it doesn't necessarily say like abortion, right? It talks a lot more about like miscarriage and that sort of thing. If men strive and hurt a woman with child so that her fruit depart from her and yet no mischief follow, he shall be surely punished according to the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. Right. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. However, the Bible orders the death penalty for murder of a human being, but not for the expulsion of a fetus. So then the other one, and this is pretty interesting, is that the Bible defines life as breath. And there is a very, very specific not commandments, but there's specific passages that deal with it. Let's keep listening to this, and I'm going to find it. Hang on.
That is not what's going to happen. I will tell you, the only way that we take our country back is when strong, God-fearing patriots decide it is time for us to stand up and say no to your tyranny. It is time for the American Christian church to come out of the shadows, to say no longer are we going to allow our culture to be determined by people who hate the things that we believe in. We are going to stand valiantly for God's...
Well, I mean, you're not going to stand valiantly. Is that mean? Is that mean? I think that's mean. A puzzling use of the term bitter water is found in Numbers 5:11-31. As part of the Israelite law, bitter water was used to determine whether or not a wife had been unfaithful to her husband. A different type of water than in Exodus. Bitter water of Marah appears to have had natural cause, such as sediment or pollution from an unknown source. Interesting. That is interesting. Yeah. I mean, like, one of the things, too, that you have to understand is in ancient times, abortions happened all the time anyway. They just used natural abortifacents, which was substances that you would drink or eat that would induce a miscarriage. Like, that happened all the time. All the fucking time. I missed where you said praying obviously didn't fix his legs. Well, I mean, yeah. Maybe God just doesn't really like Madison that much. And besides, like, I mean, the thing is, if God was that opposed to killing babies, then why did he kill so many of them? Like, Numbers 31:17. Now therefore kill every male among the little ones. Deuteronomy 2:34. Utterly destroy the men and the women and the little ones. Thou shalt eat the fruit of thine own body and flesh of thy sons and thy daughters. 1 Samuel 15:3. Slay both man and woman, infant and suckling. 2 Kings 8:12. Dash their children and rip up their women with child. 2 Kings 15:16. All the women therein that were with child he ripped up. Isaiah 13:16. Their children also shall be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Their houses shall be spoiled, and their wives ravished. It's insane. There's more. Lamentations, Ezekiel, Hosea. Yeah, it's fucking crazy. Absolutely wild. That's crazy. But I mean, there's plenty of Christian churches that are supportive of like women's rights and abortion rights, like for sure. There are some, but that's not the Madison would call them like fake Christians or some shit. I don't know. Okay, yeah. Okay. No. Unholy God found it. Unholy God found it. Numbers 5:27. And when he has made her drink the water, then if she has defiled herself and has broken faith with her husband, the water that brings the curse shall enter into her and cause bitter pain, and her womb shall swell, and her thighs shall fall away, and the woman shall become a curse among her people. That is a woman taking an abortifacient. That's what it is. That's what it is. I don't know. Anyway, when you look further into it, this deity seems kind of like a dick. I mean, it's like anything, you know.
God's incredible, inerrant truths that predate any version of government. Because, my friends, if we lose this country today, if we bend the knee to the Democrats today, our country will be lost forever and our children will never know what freedom is. It's our duty to stand up. I encourage you, let us stand united as men and women of faith to fight for our country.
All right, you want us all to stand united and fight for our country? You first. I don't give a fuck if it's mean. Whatever. Fuck Madison Cawthorn.